the Brighton game also saw the desperately disappointing injury to Leno at the hands of Mopé. And also, just in the last couple of days, we've seen that Martinelli is possibly going to be ruled out at the end of the season. No official confirmation on that yet. But Layth, what do you think? Does that show that Arsenal really messed up their preparation for this intense season?
Well, it was a can of worms, that question, and we'll come to that. But I've got to just give a plug to the Gooner Fanzine and the story we ran earlier about Bernd Leno's injury. Basically, we did it as a world exclusive through my contacts at the club, who gave me the tip off that it wasn't a long-term injury. I know a lot of outlets were saying it was going to be a 12-month plus sort of time spell out. It's basically 6 weeks, as we called it before anyone else on the planet, basically. So quite pleased about that exclusive. Read the Gooner Fanzine, you'll see it. Read every other paper they would have brought in on that. Well, I doubt they'll give us credit for it, but even so, we're the ones that led with the story. So I'm very pleased about that. Very pleased about Leno not being out for the season, not being out for a year, but 6 weeks is basically the end of the season, practically. And you're right, what you're saying about Martinelli. Martinelli, according to the legendary David Ornstein, is out as well. I think it's cartilage damage he was talking about on his tweet, and the piece he wrote as well. That's a massive, massive blow for Arsenal if Martinelli is out for the season. It probably explains, because the way Ornstein wrote about it and phrased it, Martinelli had been struggling with a knee issue in training since or prior to the Man City game, basically, which explains why he wasn't picked. There was a lot of discussion, ourselves included, as to why Martinelli wasn't playing or didn't play against City, and certainly didn't play against Brighton. That probably explains it. The fact he probably was nursing a knee issue, which has subsequently turns into a cartilage issue. Although, as you say, the club still have to confirm it, but it does sound like that's what's going to happen, basically. And again, it's a massive, massive blow. Well, why do Arsenal get so many injuries? You can't just put it down to bad luck. What else is it? Are they so finely tuned, like a racehorse, that they pick up the sort of slightest knock knocks them out for a long time? It felt like that prior to Unai Emery, when Arsene Wenger was there, that you'd have all these finely tuned athletes, really honed athleticism, and it would just the merest knock would knock them out for so long. We've been to the pitches at London Colney. They're manicured to within an inch of your life, basically. I don't know. I don't know what it is. They've changed the doctors. They've changed the medical staff. They've changed the personnel. There's different players that come in. And yet Arsenal still are suffering from such a bad injury list. Only Arsenal could have 3 months off and have an injury list, an injury crisis the week they start again. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. Arsenal have tried a few things, but the list's still there, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, and obviously Leno's going to be a huge miss for these next 6 weeks, isn't he? It's going to be.
Well, I mean, we've been saying throughout the season that Leno's Arsenal player of the season. Undoubtedly, he's saved us a hell of a lot of games. We would have had a much longer loss list and win list if it wasn't for Leno. Thankfully, I think Martinez is a very good number 2. I think he's a very good backup. A backhanded positive is that we actually get to see what Matt Macy looks like on a subs bench. That'll be the first time ever. So that'd be quite good.
About 3 weeks.
But I think Leno being out, it's really problematic for me, because I think he was probably quite a good sort of steadying force with the shaky centre-backs in front of him. And, we've already got a slightly untrustworthy defence as it is. And now we're going to have a new added mix of a new goalkeeper behind them who, even if he's good in his own right, he's going to struggle because he's going to have not the control over the players that Leno was used to having week in, week out. Leno is our only player that played every minute of the season so far. He understood, the flippancy of the defenders in front of him. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Martinez is going to manage with the centre-back partnership in front of him compared to what Leno would have done. So hopefully the season comes to a close pretty quickly and Leno's back at the start of next season.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Dan, what do you think of Martinez? Obviously, we've seen him a little bit in the Europa League this season. Do you think he's going to cope with the Premier League?
But firstly, I want to mention something. So obviously, the challenge on Leno was not a great one. But do you remember something similar with Mathieu Debuchy a few years back when he got injured? Why are we not being protective from challenges like that when players are jumping or clearing control of the ball? And they're just being shoved to the floor and getting seriously injured. Obviously, Leno's isn't as serious as we first thought. But even people you think about, Diaby was seriously injured in the City challenge. Eduardo, the list goes on. Why is there not more protection? And why are players not being punished? Why was there no punishment for Mopé?
I'm totally with you there, Dan. It's just annoyed me for years and years and years. The so-called innocuous challenge, where players seem to get when someone is in the air or somebody's going full tilt, and the ball is dead and it's a pointless challenge. That push in the back or that nudge really, really irritates me and does lead to some of the most sort of career-threatening injuries. If someone's just sort of like pulled back or taken out, it's a foul, it's a yellow, it's a red, but that just seems to get overlooked. It really does irritate me. It really does irritate me.
Anyway, my opinion on Martinez, as you asked. Sorry for digressing. Yeah, I think he's a fairly decent keeper. I mean, I'm a bit concerned about his lack of experience. Obviously, he's been at Arsenal for many years now, but has he reached double figures for league appearances? I'm not sure he has. So, yeah, I think he's a decent enough keeper. Obviously, Leno's going to be a massive miss, but I think Martinez will do more than well enough to cover for the next however many weeks until the end of the season.
He might benefit from playing in front of empty stands.
Yeah, well, he did. Do you remember he did what he did well in Frankfurt, didn't he?
Yeah.
Did he? Yeah. I was there, but I can't remember it.
No, we weren't drinking considerable amounts of alcohol throughout the day, but yeah, you mean?
He was good. His distribution was good.
Yeah.
And back to Leno. With what Layth did you think of his reaction? I think it highlighted more the fact that what Glen was saying, that it was an innocuous challenge, but Leno was keen to place the blame fully on him, on Mopé.
Yeah. You could see his reaction. You're absolutely right. When he was actually being stretchered off, he was probably in a lot of pain as well. With that adrenaline was there, and he was literally finger pointing and having a go at Moore, wasn't he? And it was a game that felt like it was a pre-season game or a friendly game in the summer on Saturday against Brighton, and that challenge was at the heat of a Premier League game, basically. And I think that's why Leno was more annoyed than anything, basically. Not because of the challenge itself, because I think, if that was one of our forwards who did it, I don't think I'd have that much of a problem with him doing it, and I certainly wouldn't be worried about him being sent off. But at the same time, it was completely out of keeping and out of context and out of spirit of that game on Saturday, basically. And there was no need to do it. So, I think Leno's got every right to be annoyed, basically. And, Moore pays the villain of the piece and he got the winner. So what does he care? Let's hope we remember that for next season when we play Brighton home and away, though. Yeah.
Do you think Arteta now will be really worried for the rest of the season? Is he going to think Leno's miss is going to be pivotal for the rest of the season?
Got a lot more to worry about than just Leno missing, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of worries. Basically, I did a tweet the other day just saying how many more points can Arsenal get this season? We've got Liverpool, we've got Spurs, we've got Leicester, we've got Wolves, all tough games, and it's how many points can we get out of that, basically? So
horrible. Imagine if it's 0.
We still need one more point to be mathematically safe for relegation, to be fair.
Well, on the upside, Layth, the game against Wolves has been the pubs reopened, so there's always a recourse after we lose that game.
Right, yeah. If I don't get credit, I'll just watch it.
No, I think Arteta's got faith in Martinez. I don't think there's any concern to Martinez at all from Arteta's point of view. I mean, you saw as soon as he came in against City, he made some really important saves, some very quick reactions. He's got strong wrists as well, which is something we've noticed before in some other keepers have had strong wrists. I think there's a lot of comfort from Martinez being in goal. I think it's purely just going to take a couple of training sessions for them to get used to him being the main man between the sticks.
Yeah.
Do you think he's got faith, though? Because if I remember rightly, didn't he drop him for both Europa League games against Olympiacos?
Well, he's got to have faith in him now, hasn't he? But you're absolutely right, Dan. Yeah, he'll have faith until the end of the season. Martinez is not a long-term option as a number one Arsenal keeper, but that's what he is at the moment, basically. So Arteta's got to have faith in him. But you're absolutely right. He did do that. So what does that say about?
Who'd have thought we'd have got to this point in the season that we're not even mentioning, but Mustafi's looking like the bloody mainstay of our defence.
Yeah, most improved for me, definitely. God, what a miserable season. Seriously.
We wanted him out in November.
Never talk of this season again once it's over. Seriously.
Do you know what the worst part is? We don't even get a sustained break without football. We've got 2 weeks and it starts again.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, to be fair, but not with Arsenal.
Yeah, Arteta's not going to have much time to affect any change in the summer.
No.
Yeah.
all 7 days.
The fortnight-long summer. Wonderful.
Well, boys, I reckon it might be time to ask Glen if we've got any notes for this week's podcast. And he's going to say not a lot, and then he's going to say he has got a lot.
only a couple. Like I say, in these dark times, it's remiss of me to rant about minor annoyances. But I omitted to mention it after the City game. As I spoke to you earlier, I just could not understand after a 3-month hiatus when there's this big kind of emotional, dramatic return to football that we came out against City in a dark blue kit. You know, for me growing up, and probably Layth, one of the great sort of colour clashes with that sky blue of City and the red and white of Arsenal. And it just really disappointed me. There was, you know, it should have been a sort of like a stamp of our heritage, you know, our history. Arsenal are back, and here they are in a red and white kit. And I think the co-commentator mentioned it. I can't remember who it was. And the commentator said, well, I think you need to address that question to the marketing department at the Emirates. And I just, it left a little bit of a sour taste. Other than that, not a lot. I've been outside a lot because I'm on holiday. Insects are doing me head in. I've got a real sort of, unfortunately, it's the same as my mum actually. I've got a real allergy to insect bites. So my my ankle has been bitten. And if you could see this, it looks like those sort of ankles that your great aunties used to have swelling over their slippers.
Oh my God, we don't want to see that.
No, you know, it's more swollen than Dominic Cummings' bladder on his way up to Durham. And yeah, just to add insult to injury, today is the day that flying ants decided to emerge from the ground. It's like, oh. But other than that, that's it, Toby. I'm sorry, I haven't got much more for you.
So basically, Arsenal's problems pale into the significance compared to yours, Glenn.
Yeah, pretty much so.
Confirmed. I'll wait for the confirm on that one. Well, boys, any other notes you have from this week?
Just keep reading the Gooner website, Gooner Fanzine website. I'll actually be at Southampton on Thursday night covering the game for Varvel. Dan will be doing a live blog for the Gooner Fanzine website. Massive thanks to everyone who's been reading. Well, the numbers are growing all the time. And thanks to everyone for watching the YouTube channel. We've got big plans ahead, and keep watching, basically.
Yeah, Glenn, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's very annoying Southampton. We've got a diehard Arsenal, mutual friend, me and Layth, diehard Arsenal fan, who decamped down to that Hampshire. And we normally go down there and stay with him for the Southampton game. So Southampton away is always a cracking weekend. So we've been denied that, obviously, by the lockdown. But
yeah, the stories tell about weekends in Southampton with our mutual friend. Yes,
we never get on very well there on the pitch. So probably I'm glad I ain't going.